Hey, welcome. I'm going to record the meeting and begin that and begin the presentation as we walk through. Welcome to May. This is, of course, this is our frantic month, right? This is when just we all, the good news is I have no more hair to lose, right? So it's okay. I'm already in sprint mode as we get into here. It's also No Mow May, right? And I trust that many of you are raising your neighbor's ire by not mowing, right? And giving the pollinators a chance to get going. I think it's going to be especially important this year because we've had such a late spring, right? And we only now, right, just in the past week or so, are we seeing temperatures really rise, and I'm seeing a lot of blooms on plants like today and yesterday that I didn't see last week.
Mhm.
So this is the time for pollinators to really get engaged, right? And so the No Mow May is to let all of your plants and your lawns, right, get some seed some seed flowering going so that we can encourage pollinators of all types. Tiny little insects, right, all the way up to birds. So No Mow May. Anyways, we jump into it. We've got a busy day today. We'll go through our regular presentation data of May to-dos from Oregon State. Lots of announcements, obviously, as we hurtle towards the Mother's Day plant sale and the Home and Garden Show. And then Kylie is going to be joining us here, and we're going to be talking. Some things we would like not to pollinate, as much as we have. So with that, we jump in. A busy month, right? And of course, e-news, if you saw this month's e-news, right? It began with a long list from Katie, right, of all the things going on, over the next couple of months. So be sure to check that out. And if you have lost your copy of e-news or whatever, reach out to Katie to get a refresh because lots of things happening. But we've got birthdays this month: Gloria, Midge, Ann, Karen, and Brenda. Happy birthday all. And interesting, they're all this week. So go figure. So they're all clustered this week, so we can have a whole birthday presentation this week. Uh,
So should that say May
it
on the
should.
calendar?
That is all wrong. This is that. Yeah. Well, good check. I'm actually doing the April presentation slide there. That's for sure. I'm going to have to slip over the slide quickly because I realized I didn't do May. That's for sure. So thanks for that reminder. That's for sure. This is the one thing I really have to focus on every month, right? And I have to go back and merge slides and so forth. And so I apologize. This is a complete miss on my part. So happy birthday
Kelly,
to the April
Kelly,
birthdays.
the rest of us are just relieved that you're human.
Hey, you could have fooled us. We believed you.
Anyway, happy April birthdays, everyone. That's for sure. In fact, even look at the calendar is way wrong. Yeah, this is just a disaster here, but that's okay. Happy April revisited. Okay, so coming up, of course, and this is part of the reason we're all sidetracked, right? Because we have a lot on our minds. What's coming up in May, including beginning this Saturday, May 13th. So Terry, share with us. I mean, again, kudos on putting together these flyers, right? That talk about the Home and Garden Show and the plant sales, because these are delightfully presenting in terms of what's going on. So, what all is awaiting the crowds this Saturday?
Well, thanks to Kelly, we have some wonderful planters again. His signature metal and cedar planters. Plus, this year he went above and beyond the call and made hanging baskets. So we have the planters with herbs. There's 150 planters. And we've got about a dozen that are herb planted. We have some that are veggie planted, and we have many that are colorful annuals and some with perennials that are all blooming and beautiful, and they're planted for shade and for sun. So anyway, it's rather exciting. I sold a couple to a neighbor recently, and there was no qualms at all about $40 for the hanging baskets and $50 for our planters, which is what we charged last year. So I think people will be very excited, especially when they see these cool hanging baskets. So that's all happening on Saturday, the day before Mother's Day, and it'll be at the greenhouse and also in Ocean Shores at Garden by the Sea. This allows us to pre-sell and not have to haul so many of these planters to the Home and Garden Show.
Want to encourage everyone, right, to make their trip up there this weekend, and this is by either at in Ocean Shores, the Garden by the Sea, or up at the Rustemeyer at the greenhouse. And of course, it is just a beautiful sight just to see all these planters out there, you know. And so this is remember, this is weeks worth of work that Terry has put in, right, to planting all these things, right, you know, and nurturing these all these plants. So it's a huge project, right, to pull all this together, but it's a lot of fun. And by the way, I'm going to be very interested in feedback from you all regarding the hanging baskets. I had this is a new design, and it's a new technique, and so I'll be interested in feedback from you all as to how that plays out. Anyway, so get your cards and checks and Bitcoin ready, because Terry will accept Bitcoin payments, I'm sure, right, for the.
Do you
Okay,
have
so
a picture of the hanging baskets?
I guess I don't. They actually look similar in style. That's a good question, Janice, but they look similar in style, right, to the larger planters, except that they have cords, you know, polyethylene cords to hold them up. And they're a little bit smaller just because obviously you're trying to manage weight, right? You know, this is a hearty master gardener hanging basket. None of that frivolous little you know, a little grocery store hanging basket here. We want to make sure your eaves are solid, right, when you plant that hook in there to lay that basket out.
Okay, thanks.
So talking about scholarships, right? So I'm curious as to is there any feedback from anyone on the scholarship committee into any scholarship submissions? We've kind of been quiet over the past couple of years. You recall we didn't have a qualified scholarship applicant last year. I'm curious from anyone, did we receive applications this year?
We got one. This is Karen. I think I'm the only member of the committee. Well, Mike's a member of the committee too.
So we got one application. Does it, is it?
The last I heard there was one, and I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So.
Well, we look forward to that. And you know what? Let's just keep talking this up, right? Because this is a great vehicle to get out and to get our word out across all the high schools that are across the two counties. I do believe that overall scholarship applications are down across all different scholarship genre, you know, for whatever reason.
We only got 3 for the Irish Club, and we used to get like 10 and 11. So you're right, Kelly.
So for whatever reason, folks are applying less for these scholarships, but holy cow, we've got cash to give, right? You know, and so it's a great opportunity that we want to be giving. We definitely hope that we can be encouraging folks to apply, and we'll keep it, you know, pumping it into future years as we go on to this. Okay. I wanted to just make a note, just a reminder that we gather here today. You know, this is kind of a standard slide. We gather here today as our foundation. We are all master gardeners with the program that WSU manages and runs, right? But we are all also members of a foundation, which is a separate 501c3 nonprofit corporation. And it is within that context that we come together here. And it is interesting, by the way, because within the new context of websites, we definitely have more information regarding the website information that we have. And so within our foundation, right, our elected board is led by the esteemed Sabine, you know, who joins us here today. And of course, look at that open block. Look at that open block that says president-elect. You know, your name here could be right there, you know. I mean, doesn't that seem inviting to have that name right at the top of the slide? I mean, doesn't it just give excitement just thinking about seeing your name there? So the rest of us, of course, you know, are all active in our various roles. And again, we sit here. The reason why we present this slide and talk about it, because we present this thing as officers of a corporation, of a separate 501c3 corporation, and we have responsibilities to the corporation as part of that. Now, from our regional directors, right, Jan, Valerie, and so Sheila represent 3 regional subgroups, right? And these are indeed these regional directors. You know, these are the voting representatives from these subgroups to the board. These subgroups, just to be clear, right, you know, are not separate organizations. That's not a separate chapter or subsection or committee. This is merely a geographic clustering of our master gardeners for the convenience of having a group that is more, you know, the ability to plan plant clinics and exercises and workshops and activities that are appropriate to the geographic community, given that our combined foundation covers 3,500 square miles. Remember, that's half the size of Massachusetts. You know, so, you know, we definitely need to have some geographic clustering so that the carbon footprint, you know, that we are all delivering in terms of becoming a master gardeners isn't overwhelming. So again, hats off again to Alina and Brenda for their role as our coordinators and for Tony as our faculty liaison. Reminder, of course, and this is our pet peeve, is that we are the only county, I believe, that we have to financially support our own program coordinators. And Tony's assignment, by the way, she gets no recognition or support from WSU for being our Master Gardener faculty liaison. So she's doing this in addition to her formal responsibilities for WSU Extension. So kudos to everyone, Tony, Brenda, and Alina, for their services on this, because we need to have all of these roles in order for us to continue as a foundation and have the program here in our 2 counties. Okay, so quick reminder here with respect to meetings. You know, is that so for 2023, the first 2 months of each quarter, we will have our foundation meetings on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. as we are doing today. The 3rd month, which will be next month, the 3rd month of the quarter, June, our meeting will be on Saturday, June 10th. And we actually have a special meeting planned for that Saturday, June 10th, a special potluck that we'll be talking about here in a little bit later. So just a reminder that, you know, those meetings are always, you know, those meetings will always be at on the first 2 months of the quarter on Tuesdays, the 3rd month on the Saturday. The Zoom URL for all will always be the same Zoom URL we are using today. So if you simply want to bookmark this or write this down, put it on a postage, you know, it'll be the same one every month, regardless of whether we're on Tuesdays or Saturdays. And of course, all of these meetings are recorded and they're posted on our YouTube channel. And you can simply find us on YouTube for Master Gardeners of Grays Harbor and Pacific Counties. Our board meetings are always going to be on Tuesdays. They'll always be on the 2nd Tuesday of every month, and they'll always be at 6 p.m. so that we can have all members, those that are working or unable to join us in the morning. So always on Tuesdays, always with the same URL, always at 6 p.m. So we'll be meeting tonight at 6 p.m. for a board meeting, and everyone is welcome to join the board meeting. Sabine has sent out the agenda to all the board members. If anybody's interested in seeing what that agenda is, you know, ping Sabine, and she can forward it to you. Sabine, any comments, by the way, any heads up or at any preview of tonight's board meeting that you want to share with the whole foundation?
Yes, we're going to have a busy evening. We have a few things to vote on. One of them are your most favorite policies and procedures, which we all love. There is going to be a new update on the Unified Foundation website. We met with Craig, and we being Chris, Kelly, and myself. There's some news on that, and I hope we will get a really, my understanding is we get a nice report from Terry and those Robin and Rhonda who've been working on the Home and Garden Show. It is going to be a busy evening, and it should be quite interesting.
And Val, I know that you have a presentation you'll be sharing regarding a proposed gazebo, right, that we want to get involved in. Yeah. So
Right.
folks, everyone is welcome to join. Very much look forward to seeing everyone tonight at 6. And wine is optional.
Yeah.
Okay, so May to do. So at least I got the Oregon State University gardening tips into May. So we forgot the birthdays, but we're into May. And so the exciting thing here is that we really can start talking about warmer soil temps to get things planted. And and so it's an obvious encouragement, right? Just to buy an inexpensive soil thermometer, just to know what the temperatures are. And at our plant clinic that we had in Owako just last Saturday, it was interesting how many people, once again, new to the area, new to our Pacific County area, were asking questions about how do I grow tomatoes? What do I grow here? How do I amend my soils? So all these basics in terms of thinking about when to start planting, what types of plants to start thinking about. I mean, folks in the public are definitely thinking about these. The soil temperatures, by the way, this is that I think I probably need to go back and do this. This is from an older date, but I know we've increased. I know the soil temperatures have gone up a little bit, but they really haven't gone skyrocketing. I definitely want to encourage everybody to go to that WSU Weather Weather Net, and check out the soil temps on those. Maintenance and cleanup. Fertilization, it's interesting for rhododendrons and azaleas. We're having very late blooms on our azaleas and rhodies. I don't know how other folks are experiencing it, but I'm also suspecting that's not just temperatures, but it actually could be just depleted soil nutrients. And it could be time to actually restore some of those soil nutrients. Although, with established plants, they're really not, we don't really normally encourage a lot of those. And of course, for roses and other new plants, it is interesting to think about plants that are appropriate for this climate. Again, going back to our plant clinic we held in Owako last Saturday, a number of people approached us with plants that they brought into the area from out of the state or out of the area, and these plants are struggling, and they're wondering to know why. And we just kind of look at them and say, well, look, where do you live? And just what are you planting them in? It's kind of tough, when you're right next to the ocean, all that wind and all that sand, this is not the place to grow corn. It's just not going to happen. May to-dos, planting dahlias, gladioli, tuberous begonias, right? Chrysanthemums, right? So it is a great time to get vegetables in, as well as dahlias and other tuberous plants. So it heads up in terms of it's time to get some of those in, as well as start. It's interesting to start thinking about fall color in terms of getting chrysanthemums planted now, and getting those things going. Pest monitoring, yes, along with the pollinators and so forth comes everything else, right? So and this is where again, going back to the plant clinic experience, right? People are going to wonder, what can I spray? We had one of the questions was very quickly already came into our PNWMG website, specifically talking, what can I spray in my strawberries? Is what's interesting how many of the public immediately leap to an herbicide solution for pest control. And they're completely, neglecting the thought of the impact that those herbicides are making on other insects, on other animals, on other pollinators, and thinking about other options, other IPM methods for control of those pests. So it definitely gets into part of our role as master gardeners to making sure that folks know of all the options they have. Good news is that we'll soon be out of the frost risk across all of our areas. It's interesting, Aaron, thinking about you in the very easternmost extent of our geography. You technically are under a frost risk still, and until the end of the month. So we'll see how it all plays out here. But I think good news is we're pretty well at, we have one more day and here on the coast, and our risk of frost is likely gone. So I mentioned No Mow May, and it's catching on. I think if you've probably seen and heard from perhaps other gardening messages or even just other information sources. It is interesting. I mean, look at the quote here that's coming on to this, that the simple changes in mowing could result in 10 times more nectar for bees and other pollinators. And when we start thinking about pollinators, we don't have to think about the ones we can physically see very easily. I still am amazed by when I let my grass grow tall and let the grasses flower. As small and as intimate as those flowers are, I see little gnats, I see little tiny little wasps, tiny little flies, all kinds of, the lawn becomes alive, for that time, with even such simple flowers. And all of that makes a major difference in not just in pollination, but I've also seen our little brown bats return. The little brown bats have shown up, right? And they're starting to feed on the mosquitoes and the little feeds. I'm getting more hummers and more active bird life that's coming through. So no mow May makes a huge difference, and it's not just in our own gardens, by the way, but we're talking about the planet and the health of the planet for that. With that, I want to turn it over to some announcements and updates, because there's a lot to be talking about. And I guess I want to, let's just kick it off, just going right to the discussion of the Home and Garden Show, because Terry and Robin and Rhonda, you want to kick it off in terms of, the biggest 2 weeks of the year as far as our all hands on deck are called.
Well, it looks like it's going to be just a sensational show. It's the vendor space is sold out. We have great presentations. Lots of you have signed up to help. And of course, we can always use more help if you find you have more hours or can hang out longer than what you've signed up for or haven't signed up yet. We'll find lots of ways to take advantage of your volunteer hours. Again, one of the important jobs, it doesn't sound like it should be as important as it is, but it's door greeters. And we've had lots of people who are going to be helping with that. And we could use a few more, especially in the afternoons. It allows us to find out where our attendees are coming from. And that helps us qualify for our tourism grant, which this year is they are giving us $5,000, which we can use to pay for speakers and for publicity. Robin and Rhonda, do you want to add to what I just said?
I just think everybody should spend their whole weekend at the Home and Garden Show. That's what we do, right? And we're happy. So it makes you happy. Just spend all day Saturday and all day Sunday there. And then you can just shop and visit and help out when you're needed. Anyway, that's
the only thing that I would add to that would be Robin and I have taken a very detailed interest in making the garden side of the show a little brighter, more colorful for the vendors. And we did get confirmation yesterday that they are replacing all of the lamps inside the arena with the brighter, whiter 5,000 K lamps. And it will make a huge difference inside that area visually. So I from an electrical perspective, I'm pretty excited about that for our vendors. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, and all of your help and support is appreciated. There are a couple of requests that I would put out there for anybody listening. If you have and are willing to bring to the event, take responsibility for it, and then take it home, we could use a few more round tables with maybe a few chairs at them where we scatter them throughout the venue for people to sit at. We have tablecloths, we'll have flowers, but if you have a table and a couple of chairs you're willing to bring, set up, and take home with you, you can reach me or Robin or Terry, and that would be a great help. One less thing for us to have to haul and take care of.
Yeah, the little patio sets are great just to stick in corners. We could also use like the big the big ones that are plastic, that you can just throw a tablecloth over and you can't see that they're plastic, and put a few chairs around them and people can sit around and rest. and eat.
So again, are there size constraints you'd like to encourage us? You're just encouraging just basically lawn furniture that would be a you know.
Yeah, lightweight lawn furniture that could be hauled, even a lightweight bench or something. It's nice to have seating places around, and as far as the table goes, no bigger than, the round where you put 4 or 5 chairs around, no bigger than that.
Yeah. So don't overdo it, right? With the
No,
size
Don't
of the
overdo
tables.
it. What I'm hoping for too is that, there's about 6 people who already haul everything, including probably their kitchen sink, to this event, quite
Yeah.
a distance. And it would be nice to spread that out a little bit. And if there are other local folks who would take responsibility for their own stuff so that we weren't having to do it, it's really helpful. That's all I had to say. I'm resting up this week. It's going to be a crazy next week. Got lots of to-do lists for people that are volunteering and lots of to-do lists for ourselves. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There's one more thing that we could use help with, and that is for Cisco Morris's presentation on Sunday. He is doing a talk like he's done for other events. It's called Stump the Chump. And he is asking people who attend to fire questions at him, gardening questions that hopefully he will answer. But if he can't, I'm sure there will be, he will be just like us and admit it, because Cisco is a master gardener, just like we are. I'm hoping that any of our members who are going to be at the presentation will think of a question and bring it to his talk, so that we can kind of prime the pump and throw out some questions to kind of get it going if the other attendees are slow to figure out how to participate in this. So if you're going to attend his talk, come with a question, please.
Do you think he's really looking for a very trick question, or is he just looking for just an honest particular question and so forth?
I'm guessing he's looking for both, and I bet he's got some humorous way, because he's a funny guy. I imagine he's got some ways of fielding questions that are off the wall, or again, that he can't answer, because he's just like us. He's a master gardener, and we have to admit it when we don't have an answer.
And of course, he's very personable. There's no question, right? So again, and I appreciate the fact that he, priming the pump is helpful to make sure that the audience in general is comfortable, making sure, hey, he wants to have a conversation with us, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so again, this is and the comment I want to make, of course, is that, of course, this is an incredibly important show to us, but it's an incredibly important show to all the vendors, right? That actually come to this show. And Grace Harbor County recognizes the economic impact that our show has, right? There are thousands of people, right, that will be visiting us during this show, and there will be many, at least tens of thousands of dollars in merchandise and services that are going to be transacted, right, by the vendors at the show. For many of these vendors, this is a big part of their annual program. So when I think about the services we're providing as master gardeners and the awareness and education and outreach that we're having here, I'm also thinking about the economic benefit to the community that this results in. This is a significant opportunity, and a great exemplification of what we do as a service organization in benefiting the community in so many different ways.
I agree. And I always tell, the master gardeners, there's a lot of master gardeners there throughout the weekend. And lots of times I'm surprised at how many of them aren't shopping. Like they're just sitting in the booth or, helping out doing their thing. But gosh, bring money to spend. That's, it's a livelihood of these vendors. And that's how we get them back again, is if they make money and they want to be there. So
Yep.
buy Christmas presents and buy Mother's Day presents and buy birthday presents,
That's what we do. Wear your master gardener outfits. Wear your aprons that you've had made. Wear your t-shirts, shirts. Wear something that identifies you besides your name badge it's one of the things our vendors look forward to is seeing how many volunteers we have at this event. They're always blown away because no other event, no other home and garden show has volunteers the way we do. And we treat people really well, and that's why they want to come back.
Yes, we always pass out a little sheet at the end asking the vendors if they have any comments or, criticisms or anything. And you know what? I hardly ever hear anything that's negative. It's always positive, and they always say there are so many master gardeners that were so friendly to me and, and helpful and went out of their way to, help us in any way they could. So they really appreciate it. They love our show.
So gear up, people. It's happening like next week. So it's just, let's take a tip from Rhonda here and rest up, right? Because it's going to be at all hands on deck. Thanks in advance for everybody's support, by the way, obviously in preparation. You saw some of the pictures that Terry just shared, right? Of some of the planters and so forth that are already geared up and ready for the plant sale. And it's going to be an exciting week coming in. It's also time to be thinking about July and the garden tour. And so this is absolutely the time, right, to get plantings out for the plant sale we'll have on July 22nd. And that is also fast approaching. And this is absolutely the time, especially now that we've got some decent weather, right, to get some plants and some cuttings and some divisions and some seeds started so that we've got a mass variety. Plant sales, by the way, are across other foundations across the state, plant sales are their primary moneymaker, and they're talking tens of thousands of dollars that they raise in their overall plant sale. So our ambitions are far more modest. However, we know we can make an impact. And I tell you, people want to buy from Master Gardeners. They want to buy our plant stuff. So Rhonda, any comments you want to have as you kind of lead this effort?
Cindy Burton, are you on? No? Yesterday, this is just a little side note. Yesterday, Robin and I were at the demo garden, and Cindy is just doing such a phenomenal job, and she's got so much work ahead of her. But there were a lot of plants at the demo garden that she wanted us to take for the plant sale. It would be nice if we had some people volunteer to go out and help dig them and get them potted up. I know Cindy has her hands full with so many other things, but if you're willing to work with her, let her identify which plants they are, and you're willing to dig, please contact Cindy Burton. I think it would be really great to be able to help with that because there are a lot of beautiful plants at the demo garden that we could be selling. And other than that, once the home and garden show is out of the way, I'll refocus and again, just encouraging you to propagate, plant new, buy stuff on clearance someplace else and baby it along till it looks good. Label your plants. And after the home and garden show, we'll start coordinating with getting them lined up for sale.
This actually reminds me is that, with respect to the nurseries that I trust you have good relationships with, it's okay to ask them, are there plants they would like to donate, for this cause? We definitely find that, that our nurseries here are very generous in giving us plants that have not been selling or need to find a home, or, as you pointed out, Rhonda, need a little extra love and care, right, to bring them up to some condition here. So that's, again, another opportunity just to acquire plants. Rhonda, coming back to the Elma Demo Garden, for example, maybe after home and garden show, maybe we think about a work party or something that we can organize and get a group out there and just do some serious digging.
I think it would be helpful. Yeah, we can coordinate that.
Other opportunities for volunteering, right? Is that the state conference. The state conference will be at the end of September in Tacoma this year, right? The end of September in Tacoma. This is an outstanding way, right, to collaborate with master gardeners across the state, to learn a tremendous amount in a very intimate session, very intimate fashion, right, with folks together. And they're looking for support. The state foundation folks are looking for volunteers to help with that program. Karen, Aaron, is there any comments you want to share with respect to the upcoming program? So it's just again, this is an opportunity for volunteering, and reach out to John Strong. Yeah, Karen.
One of the things I would like is I'm on the awards committee, and I would certainly like to remind people to think about somebody they'd like to nominate for Master Gardener of the Year. Let's see, what are the Ed Lacrosse award, and that doesn't have to be a Master Gardener. And I'm trying to think, what's the other one? Oh, the Media Award. Think about nominating somebody that you know that's really deserving of this award and nominate them.
Okay, very good. So this is it is a great opportunity for recognition amongst ourselves, kind of like the Oscars of our state here, if you will, right?
Correct.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, and of course, a quick reminder then that as part of what we are all doing and all these volunteer hours that we're contributing, get them into the system, get them into Give Pulse. And of course, any support you need from either Alina or Brenda in helping to navigate Give Pulse, it's right there for you. So Brenda, Alina, any comments on Give Pulse or any other announcements from the foundation perspective that you want to share at this time?
No, I'm just recording hours every week, and it's refreshing to know that people are putting in their hours. Brenda and I are working together with questions that we have, and she's taking them to the weekly Give Pulse meetings. Is this appropriate now to talk about our 50th anniversary award recipients?
Sure, please.
Okay. Well, we have 3 people from our 2 counties that were honored on April 8th for their leadership roles and their active participation in our 2 counties. Read the e-news for more information, but basically it was Kelly, Sharon Coolish Bales, and Terry Small who received the awards at the Puyallup Center back then. They were also featured in the Daily World. So we got a lot of publicity for that, and we are really fortunate to have them as part of our Master Gardener program. They were the 3 of us, the 3 of them, 3 of us, were the only ones that received the award at the Puyallup Center. So that was very exciting. The other thing I wanted to say is my deepest thanks for all of you that are sending your completed plant clinic and outreach event forms to me in a timely manner. It's been so helpful to receive them within a week after the event. And so I'm starting to put the data on an Excel sheet, which will really give me access when I have to make a quarterly and annual report. So thank you, thank you.
And of course, I just want to note that as we see Robin weeding in her garden today while attending the foundation meeting, we've already determined that she's actually still contributing program support hours, even though she's also doing work in gardening her own garden there. So there's opportunities here we're not double dipping, right? But we are certainly maximizing and optimizing our time as foundation members.
And she doesn't have to send me a form verifying her hours.
Hey, thanks much, Alina. And by the way, thank you and Brenda both for the work that you do as our coordinators, right? I mean, this is tireless. We have to have your support. We have to have your administration oversight. And so it is, and you're truly doing this, right? Not for the 62 cents an hour that you earn for our honorarium, but, out of the goodness of your hearts and knowing that we need this support. So thank you. Okay, so any other announcements, by the way? Any other announcements and comments from anyone? Bev, yeah. I want to unmute yourself.
I have just a couple of things. Last Saturday, the South Pacific County Master Gardeners had their first plant clinic in the parking lot of the Columbia Pacific Heritage Museum in Oahu. And we had 8 people show up between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the most common comment was heat units and lack thereof on the coast. We had a lot of people moving from a place where there were more heat units. And so we had lively conversations with that. And I want to thank Ava and Alina for being our plant clinic people last Saturday. The other thing I would like to mention is that the Columbia Pacific Heritage Museum is hosting a Dahlia event on September 15th and 16th, no, 16th and 17th, Friday and Saturday. And the Master Gardeners of Pacific County have been invited to participate. So I have a little article on page 6 of the e-newsletter, May e-newsletter, that talks about it in more detail. So I want to shout out to all the dahlia growers in Pacific County and Grays Harbor County to participate in this free event. It's going to be a juried event. The article does state how you can get in touch with the people that are organizing this as part of the museum, and that information is in the article in the May e-newsletter.
Thanks, Bev. Other announcements, other comments from anyone?
I will show off the reminder that Prairie Appreciation Day is this Saturday, if you don't have anything else going on this Saturday. It's down south of Mima Mounds, and it's an area that is not normally open to the public. So this is your one chance to get in. They have all sorts of activities, really good demonstrations, and you get to talk to some prairie flowers.
Wow. And swing by and buy a planter either before or after. That's great. What are the hours of that, Helen?
I think it's pretty much all day, like from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4.
And is there, where do they go for more information?
I just go online and do Prairie Appreciation Day.
Very good. Other announcements? Terry?
I would just like to point out that in e-news, there's a list of the gardens that are going to be on the garden tour. So right after the Home and Garden Show, we move right into the garden tour. And we've got some pretty wonderful gardens that are going to be on this year's tour, including 2 of our own master gardeners are going to be on the tour. One of them is Val's Garden in Progress, which is she's putting in a rain garden. So it definitely is a very brand new, just getting started garden. But if you're interested in rain gardens, it'll be a really good way to find out more information, because actually I learned a lot talking to her that rain gardens are not what I thought they were. So she'll be on it, and so will Amy Thomason with her garden. She has a garden that she's the 4th member of her family to own this house in Elma. And so I'm thrilled that we have 2 master gardeners on this tour.
Thank you, Terry. I'm glad you made that decision for me.
That's right.
I'm planting. I'm so excited, but I don't have time for anything else right now.
Terry, do you guys know where the sale will be?
Yes, the sale is going to be at Amy Thomason's.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got a big paved area in front of her garage and parking across the street at a business that isn't open on Saturdays. So there'll be lots of parking. And she's also got an area behind her garage where she has a small greenhouse and a fenced area as a holding place for plants before the show. Oh, yeah, before the tour and the plant sale.
Can we put that address on the website, or can we not? As the sale.
What do you think, Rhonda?
Are you saying for members only to view?
No,
I-
on the website for the public. And we put the address of the plant sale in the past, but it's not usually been, like
They-
last year, it wasn't even, it wasn't one of the gardens.
I think it needs to be in the information. I just don't want to do it too soon.
Right.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't want people misinterpreting the date or wanting to drive by and see what's available. People
Yep. I'm good
do
with
weird
that.
stuff. And so, Chris, I would just urge a little caution and that maybe that address doesn't go in until the week before, but we can talk about it more.
Yeah.
Terry, how do you feel?
I feel the same way. I think
Okay.
it's too soon to publicize an address, especially since it's one of our members and
Yeah.
it is a private home.
Yeah.
So let's talk
I'm
when we get a
good
little
with that.
closer to that, Chris, and then we'll come up with a good timing for doing it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking even days before is not a bad idea.
yeah.
Okay.
We can work on that. July is still a little ways off. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's just hold the horses here and get through the Home and Garden Show. Okay. By the way, Aaron posted in chat the website for the Prairie Appreciation Day. So check your chat for that information. Other announcements? Any other announcements? Quick reminder, of course, that e-news is incredibly important, right, as a communication vehicle for us, and a reminder to get those comments and edits and news into Katie, right, as early as possible, as early as those times. So we want to be very judicious and not overwhelm our members with news and such. But we definitely want to be thinking about using e-news as a vehicle. So as a reminder, of course, we're talking about the Home and Garden Show. We're talking about the July plant sale, but let's not neglect the fact that we've got 2 demo gardens and 2 demo beds scattered across our 3,500 square mile area here, and they need your attention and your support. So, there's no excuse not to get your program support hours in working those demo gardens and in contributing to the plant clinics and the workshops that are a necessary part of those gardens and those beds. Another couple of comments is that next month in June, on Saturday, June 10th, we'll have a potluck, and a potluck time that will include some workshop that will be a workshop session that we'll be conducting amongst ourselves. Lori, did we have information today as to where the potluck will be held, the location?
I have been in touch with the Lions, the Causey Lions, and I've confirmed a couple answers to questions that you had, Kelly. I don't know about the Wi-Fi, if it's improved. There was a mold issue that someone had a problem with. I'm thinking that this will be taken care of by the new heat system that they put in. They put in a ductless heat system, which will also take care of the noise issues that we've had with that old clunky fan in the past. So I confirmed those things, but they had a board meeting last Thursday, and someone was supposed to get back to me to confirm that we could use the facility on the 10th. I haven't heard back from the president of the club yet, but as soon as I do, I will let y'all know. And if I don't hear back within the next week, I'll start looking into other alternatives.
Very good. So tentative on the Lions Club, but we'll get the word out. But June 10th will be a potluck. That's a Saturday. And what we want to focus on, right, during that time there is really kind of re-engaging our social skills, re-engaging ourselves as just coming together and meeting interpersonally. Because some of the things that we have to be thinking about as master gardeners are our values and the values that we hold dear. And so some of the things we're going to be talking about, some of the things that we're going to be talking about during that workshop is what does it mean to be a master gardener, and what values do we hold dear as part of that? And so what you're going to see on some of these slides here is that values are more than simply words on a page or words on a website, right? We have to walk the talk. We got to walk the talk of what values we stand for as master gardeners. And mind you, The Master Gardener program, as published by WSU, states a series of values. These are values on the WSU Master Gardener program website that talks about the values that we as Master Gardeners subscribe to in terms of what this means. And it speaks to integrity, transparency, honesty, truthfulness, right? Civility, and in working ourselves here, and collaboration. And so this also plays, by the way, into the very extensive nature of what are the ground rules for engaging, either as Master Gardeners or ground rules for engaging as a foundation. And I always put up this slide in all the workshops I lead, talking about how we got to the point of ground rules, right? And it goes all the way back to the 19th century, because every baseball field was different. And so the teams had to decide on the ground rules in terms of, okay, just how far away are the bases? What is a home run? If you hit over here, if you step in a cow patty, what does that mean? Right. And so it was interesting how you have, how you informally agreed to ground rules for whatever meeting or engagement you're coming together. And so these are the sorts of things we're going to be talking about when we meet on the 10th, in terms of, okay, what are our ground rules, right? What do we want to focus on and make sure that we are being true to ourselves when we meet as a group? And so this has everything to do with how our comportment, our understanding, our listening skills, and our ability to deal interpersonally. This will not only help us as a group, as a foundation amongst ourselves, but also when we deal with other individuals in other situations. As Bev, can remark here, just even last Saturday at our WACO workshop, we had a situation with with a homeless individual who was had some serious issues. And so the understanding how we as Master Gardeners comport ourselves to deal with the public, this is part of what we want to engage with. So we're looking ahead to June 10th. For an opportunity for us to workshop this amongst ourselves, to have a chance for all of us to bring forward some of these discussions. With that, of course, just a quick reminder here is that we, for 2023, have been given a series, right, of options here to engage in priorities and foci for the program. And it's in that context that we've invited today Kylie Smith, our small farms coordinator and our representative for the Grays Harbor Noxious Weed Control Board. I got to love that as a title, Kylie, right? Is that you are the noxious weed person, right? Across the county. And so you're Ms. Noxious, I guess, in terms of how this lays out to. Now, mind you, that speaks to our value statements. We're trying to be civil and we're trying to listen clearly here. So we'll let you lead off with your times that you're going here. I'm going to stop sharing and give you the opportunity to share your slides and welcome you to us here.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everybody. So let me see if I can pull up here. Okay. So, a lot of you already know me, but if you don't know me, I'm Kylie, and as Kelly said, I'm the Grays Harbor WSU Extension Small Farms Coordinator, and I've held that position for 6 years, and I've been the Grays Harbor County Noxious Weed Coordinator for 5 years. So we are venturing into our 5th season for noxious weeds. And we have taken it's not new, we've been getting more involved in the Chehalis Basin Cooperative Weed Management Area. And so this presentation, I gave it down at the Coastal Invasive Species Conference last month. And so I'm happy to share it with you guys, give you a little bit of insight on some projects that we're working on and some approaches that we're taking. This presentation is the Chehalis Basin Cooperative Weed Management Area. So I'll give a little background about the Chehalis Basin Cooperative Weed Management Area. It originally formed back in 1997, and it was formed to focus on plant species that were primarily on the Chehalis River, and aquatic species such as Brazilian Elodea, parrot feather, purple loosestrife, and knotweed. And the group came together and they created the Chehalis River Integrated Aquatic Vegetation Management Plan, which is a really great IPM plan, working together across agencies and across jurisdictions to focus on these noxious weeds and how they're going to deal with each individual one. And there's a lot of partners involved with Fish and Wildlife and DNR and the Lewis County, Thurston County, and Grace Harbor County noxious weed, the tribe, and conservation districts, and a lot more these days. So that was the original intent. And I kind of came around the last couple of years, and the CWMA was not as active as it once was. And so I went out and I got a grant called the Washington Coast Restoration and Resiliency Initiative grant from the Recreation and Conservation Office. I built my grant project around cooperative weed management, working with all these different agencies, because I realized, you know, we can't all just be working on our individual jurisdictions, that we need to be collaborating and working together. So I came in and started to I kind of got the group back together, you know, got contacts of new people, and we kind of started having the meetings again. And what came of that was not just focus on the Chehalis River, while that is still a big focal point of the group. Some other big, really cool projects came out of it and working together. So that's what I'm going to highlight, one of our projects today. And it is all about Phragmites australis. So Phragmites australis has been in the Grace Harbor region for many years now. And there was, and over the years, there's been kind of efforts to control it, but then not enough follow-up, and it kind of goes wayside, and the plants and patches keep getting bigger and bigger. And so we were working out there. I was working with the Department of Agriculture on some Spartina surveys, and we got talking about the Phragmites, and then we went and viewed some of the sites and decided, you know, I think it's time, maybe let's get the CWMA together and start collaborating with our partnering agencies to all kind of make an effort towards getting these Phragmites taken care of. So the first thing we did was went out and took our surveys and found out where all of our patches are. So this is a map of the North Bay in Grace Harbor, and these are the primary agencies that we're working with. Is the Department of Agriculture, the Fish and Wildlife, Department of Natural Resources, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Forterra is one of the property owners out there, and they're working with us, and then ourselves. And there's also a couple of private landowners that have been really great in working with us as well as the Port of Grace Harbor. So the first thing we did was went out to all of these sites, and they're not easy to get to. So that's always fun. The tides out there, and the only way to really access most of the sites is by airboat, and managing the tides very, very closely. We were definitely close to being stranded for many, many hours, a couple different occasions, but we made it out. So each site, we knew we wanted to find out how big each site was, and also take samples, because we do have a native Phragmites. We were, 99 or 95% sure that this is the invasive, but just to do our due diligence, we wanted to make sure, see what we're working with here. So each site we went and found the first green shoots of the year and sent those off for samples. So now the main picture that we're looking at is on Sand Island. But up top here is a couple pictures because come to find out, once we started talking about the Phragmites, the Quinault Indian Nation came forward and said, hey, I actually have some up on the reservation as well. So it made us realize that the scope of the Phragmites is much further than what we knew or were aware of. So we went up to the reservation and took samples up there as well. So Sand Island, right there in the middle of the North Bay, is 5 solid acres of the Phragmites. And the Phragmites can be anywhere from 10 to 15 feet tall, and it's extremely dense and hard to maneuver through. But it's 5 solid acres, and then Sand Island is a smattering of other invasives such as knotweed but then the rest of it is a lot of willow. And Sand Island is managed by the Department of Natural Resources. So then we went over to kind of the ocean shores end of things, and there's a very small patch in front of a neighborhood, and the landowners there were really excited to hear that we were going to try to get back after and take care of it because it grows up every year and they don't have a view of the gorgeous bay anymore. So and then I don't have a picture of the Ocean Shores Airport site, but you'll see a lot more later on. The Ocean Shores Airport is another really significant Phragmites, and it's completely in a wetland, and it's 3.2 acres and completely solid. So I'll show you a lot more photos of those later. A few other outlier sites around the bay are on Forterra, and then another private land. And so they all kind of range in different ways. So after we took our surveys, we sent the samples off to the Department of Agriculture. Oh, I forgot one more. Sorry, the Bowerman Airport. So this is down at the refuge, but this is out at the end of the airport, the airstrip, and around the other side. So we don't have samples, or we didn't take distinctive surveys of the Phragmites that is within the Bowerman Basin or the Nisqually Refuge there, because the U.S. Fish and Wildlife has actually been really getting on it the last couple years, and their sites are almost completely controlled, but they have been on it for the last couple years. So the rest of the sites have not been managed whatsoever. So turns out we sent the Phragmites off, and they came back with some interesting information saying that the testing came back as a Phragmites haplotype that has never been reported in the US yet, and that this species is coming from South China. So we were confirmed in knowing that it was not the native, but it was interesting to find out that this particular species has not been reported. So they are wanting us to gather more information, and they will be actually publishing a journal as kind of like a new invader. Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting thing, and even more motivation to actually keep going with this project and getting it taken care of, as big of a project as it is. So with that, we took our samples, we got our results back, and then we needed to go to all of these sites and do a little prep work before we actually did our control. So that's when we went out with brush cutters and machetes and kind of like try to cut down a lot of the old dead canes and cut paths through so that when we did come out there to do treatments, that our treatments were going to be effective and that we had good access to all the sites. And then we started our treatments in June. So the way we're handling these is we've been using just a 1% Mazapyr, and this is an aquatic solution. We do have our NPDES permit in order to do these treatments on the bay. The only way to be able to access these sites again is by airboat with a tank sprayer and hauling 100 foot of hose up into some of these patches. So it's quite the brigade, but we were able to get good treatments. And we conducted these in June. While the Phragmites wasn't quite full height yet. Obviously once it gets to be 15 feet tall, it's like knotweed. It's really hard to get a good coverage of everything. So getting it in June while it's still mid height is a lot easier. And so this is down at the Bowerman Airport, which we were able to utilize our rigs to be able to do some of the treatments down there, which made it a little bit easier.
You know, just interjecting really quick, Kylie, is that are you paying no attention to the Scott's broom in front of you there?
Oh, we got that too. Yeah, and that's the thing about so in the background you see the willows there, and unfortunately the Phragmites is growing right up, all intermixed in the willows in a lot of these sites. And also part of that prep work on some of the sites is where we went back and we cut back the willow and the native and allowed the Phragmites to grow up on some of the smaller sites. But then this winter, like on the site that you see in this picture, I mean, it's really dense willow, and then there's just a ton of Phragmites and so our initial treatments, we did not go near that. We didn't mess around with the Phragmites that's in the willow. The rest of the Phragmites is just growing amongst reed canary, Scotch broom, and blackberry. So doing an overspray was not a big deal. I decided that we needed to figure something else out for the willow. And so this winter, we came back to this site and we were doing a test plot where we actually cut down the willow in a pretty good test plot, about maybe 1,500 square feet. And we cut that willow up into willow stakes. We hauled that willow off-site over to the Wainuchi and the Satsup, where we have completed some knotweed treatments, and we planted those willow stakes in our treatment areas to get some vegetation in there to also shore up some banks, some eroding banks out there. So we did that, and the purpose of that is this summer the Phragmites is going to grow much taller. You know, the willow is now cut down short, so the Phragmites is going to grow tall, and we're going to have a lot more surface area, and we're going to be able to spray the tops of the Phragmites and hopefully not harming the hidden willow down below that has not grown yet too tall. And so the hope is to kill the Phragmites, hopefully preserving the willow down below, and then allowing the willow to come back in the years to come. So that's our plan. It's just a test plot. So more to come with that experiment later on. So also this winter, we came back to some of the sites to crush down more of the old dead canes, because we're always the treatments are not as gonna be good if you're trying to spray into all these old dead canes. So we brought out the Marshmaster, and that's why this gets a lot of attention. The Marshmaster, this particular one, is owned by the Department of Agriculture, and they've been kind of the lead, and really it's me and the Department of Agriculture really taking the lead on this project. So we brought the Marshmaster out to crush down the old canes. Now, this picture that we're looking at right now, it is kind of interesting because this particular plot of Phragmites, we had to access from the water, and that water is pretty far away. And we had hauled hose up to the site and sprayed as far as we could, but the backside of the Phragmites didn't quite get a good coverage. So the stuff we see right in front here is Phragmites that was not treated. And then everything that you see beyond, where like the marsh master is and stuff, that stuff was treated. And so it showed that, you know, our treatments were effective, and that where we had treated, it never grew any taller than from when it was the height of it in June when we sprayed. So then we went out to the Ocean Shores Airport. Now, the Ocean Shores Airport did not get a treatment on it because it is such a project, and there would be no way to actually get a treatment on this without significant prep work in getting it knocked down, because it's so established and so dense that we had to get out there this winter and get as much crushed and down as possible. So all the Phragmites here is 15 feet tall, just towering over your head, and extremely dense. So that's when we brought in the Marsh Master, and we just basically mowed it down all day long, and it was pretty fun. But these guys, they go up in this Marsh Master, and it's so dense that the Marsh Master like climbs up the Phragmites and then just eventually tips down, and some of these guys are kind of hooting and hollering when they're way up in the air. And I think they caught some attention of the landowners back behind, because in the middle of the day we got a call from the Fish and Wildlife, who got a call from the Department of Ecology, who got a call from the City of Ocean Shores, who got a call from some landowners that were very concerned, you know, that somebody's out in this wetland just wreaking havoc. And yes, it looks like we are, but this is what's necessary to get rid of this plant. This plant is actually wreaking havoc on this wetland. So, but I told the guys to stop having so much fun out there while you're doing this, because
now with the Marsh Master, you're simply just crushing it. There was no attachment. Yeah. There was no mowing attachment or saying crushing.
No, no. And some of the places like back in the Midwest where there's a ton of Phragmites, they do use Marsh Masters out there as well, and they have a flail mower attached to it. But as of now, you know, we're just going to be crushing down so that we have better access into this site. And I will say this Marsh Master is amphibious. So when we get into like the really wet areas, it kind of just floats and then goes back up onto land, which is really valuable in a lot of these sites.
The crushing, you know, just in looking at the result here, I mean, it looks like a heavily compacted mat of plant vegetative material. I'm curious, what is it? You know, well, I mean, just nothing. I would presume you're blanketing everything underneath it.
Yes,
right?
Yes. There were some trees, but none of them were healthy. Other than that, there's nothing else, absolutely nothing else that grows within these patches of Phragmites. The trees are being smothered as well. So this is what the whole area looked like before. And then this is our afterward. So you can see back in here, these are some areas that have some trees. And so we weren't, you know, we're always trying to preserve any trees, and so we're not just crushing down everything. So we will have to go back into these other areas with brush cutters and do a little bit more detailed work to get the Phragmites down.
I'm curious, when you just going back to brush cutters, I mean, I would think the stalks we're looking at here in the Phragmite, I can't imagine just using a little weed whacker, right? I mean, so you're actually, you know, using just what kind of equipment is necessary to get after those thick stalks?
So when we use what we call a brush cutter. So it's like a weed whacker, but it has a blade on it.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're sharp. So when we're in the Marsh Master crushing it, or we're out there, we're definitely have our gear on, our safety gear, eye protection and all that, because it's actually really sharp, and you need to be careful. So I have a video. I originally had a different video on here that was kind of me in the Marshmaster crushing it down, but I changed it out so that you guys can see what this looks like. So hopefully I don't blast everybody's ears at the conference. I almost blew some eardrums. Oh yeah, whoops. Oh, it must be my last one. So yeah, and then this so that site now is kind of prepped, and we will go back into that site this year and do a control. And here in June, we'll go back out to all these sites and do another treatment, and some more crushing next winter. And now also we have a lot more surveying to do. So just this winter, we found, I got a tip off of another Phragmites patch that's out by Griffiths Prairie State Park. And we did go out and find that patch. It's very small, and there's nothing as significant as these patches that are in North Bay, but there's definitely some outlier patches running on the North Coast. And so we have a lot more extensive surveys to do to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and getting everything taken care of.
So with respect to surveys, does it extend, does Phragmites, does it require saltwater immersion, right? I mean, so how far up the tidal levels of the incoming rivers, I guess, might it spread?
It could spread everywhere. I mean, it does like wet-footed ground, but it's not necessarily like shoreline. We have talked about going up the Chehalis and making sure that there is not other sites up the Chehalis as well. But this plant could grow in a lot of different areas throughout Grays Harbor. And that's another reason why we need to take care of it now.
And when you think about the multiple years that are going to be required, I mean, so you've gone in, say, with the Marshmaster in year 1, and next year you'll come back with, a more active control. Is it, I would presume it's still multiple years of monitoring.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And it's definitely going to take for probably, I mean, we're all experimenting now too. And that's why we're using kind of integrative pest management and coupling treatments with crushing down. So we're kind of doing an experiment here to see what the best way to handle it is in Grays Harbor. We can read what other people are doing, either in Eastern Washington or back in the Midwest, but it seems like our noxious weeds grow just a little different out here and are a little more healthy. So we're kind of trying a few different routes, so midsummer, yes, it's a Mazapyr that we're using, but if we find that treatment is not actually working, then we do need to maybe take a look, go back to the drawing board, and another option is doing actual fall treatment. So traditionally, when you're using these, working with the perennial plants, a fall treatment's best. And so if we switch over to a fall treatment, then we'll be using an aquatic glyphosate to see if that would work better. But we'll, I'm excited to get out there this year and actually see what our efficacy was.
And so in comparisons with Grays Harbor versus Pacific County here in Willapa Bay, we don't see that much Phragmites. I'm curious why do you have that affliction up there that hasn't reached down here?
Right. And I mean, I haven't got a straight answer, talking to the Fish and Wildlife, who's been kind of working with it for the last 10 plus years, like how it could have come about, and why such a strange, I mean, it had to have maybe just come off a ship coming into the harbor from China. And there is a couple patches, or at least one down in the Willapa on Fish and Wildlife land. But even talking to the Fish and Wildlife, they're like, the patch that's down in the Willapa is completely different than the ones that we're seeing in Grays Harbor. So,
And then has any of it seed spread out of Grays Harbor, perhaps going north, just following the plume?
I think
of the-
so, and that's why we have to do a lot more surveys up and down the coast, because we already know of at least 3 to 4 more outlier small patches up the coast. And so we'll work with the Department of Agriculture, and when they're out there doing their Spartina treatments, it's going to be now coupled with like Spartina / Phragmites when they're walking the coastlines out there. And we were just out at the mouth of the Copalis yesterday doing some more surveys and looking for Phragmites out there while dealing with some gorse.
Because I was commenting at, I was thinking about it, you were mentioning you're just using imazapyr plus a dye, right? And of course, for Spartina down here, we're using aquatic glyphosate plus the imazapyr plus the dye, and a surfactant, right?
Yep. Yep. And we use surfactant as well. Yep. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out, but it's I call it like big boy restoration, being able to use the fun toys like airboats and Marshmasters. So it's been fun. And it's been really great to see all the agencies working and collaborating, whether that's equipment sharing or crew time or getting accesses into certain areas. It's been a really great group effort to showcase. So
now, what would you like us to know as Master Gardeners about the program? I suppose if we're out on ocean shores, don't freak out when you see a tank.
Yeah, right. That would be part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about it. I was like, who just has a Marshmaster and just goes joyriding through wetlands if you're not supposed to be there? But yeah, you might see us out there. If you're ever just taking walks out in the North Bay area or anywhere on the beach, and you just see a very large grass above the reed canary, take a point, take a picture, and let me know. Yeah.
Other questions, comments for Kylie here. This is incredibly important, right? Because invasive stuff, is it good? Terry, you have your hand up.
I'm unfamiliar with the chemicals that are being used on the grass, and I noticed in that one picture, was that you? You weren't wearing a mask or anything. Is it?
No, the imazapyr does not require any kind of. It requires, your traditional just gloves and boots, long sleeve shirts and stuff like that. But no, it doesn't require anything extra. Yeah, it's imazapyr, the aquatic one. It's what's used in like national parks and like sensitive areas.
And
is it something that that can be used by other people instead of like Roundup, or is it specific for how it's used by the professionals?
So unfortunately, because it's an aquatic, it's not available to people who do not have their aquatic license. So in Washington State, any kind of aquatic is like a registered use. It's also what we use for knotweed control. And so when talking to landers who have knotweed, if they can technically use imazapyr, but you have to get it from a dealer and like sign a waiver that says that you are using it only in a terrestrial setting and not anywhere near water. So usually I don't recommend that to landowners, and I just say like hire a professional if an aquatic product like imazapyr or aquatic glyphosate is required.
But to be sure, imazapyr is a common pesticide that you can find in concentrated fashions at Home Depot, for example, right? So it's available, as part of other commercial products.
I usually don't find the straight imazapyr. I usually
No, you don't find straight imazapyr. No, yeah.
No, I usually find like sometimes some of the products have like a very small amount of imazapyr in it. And so that's what I've found. It's usually like a glyphosate or a triclopyr with a small percentage of imazapyr.
Questions, comments for Kylie. This is important. This is learning your molecular chemistry here, folks. And
well,
again,
I have a question for you guys. So I'm going to be speaking at the Home and Garden Show, and I'm about to be sending off kind of my title and my what it's going to be all about. And my first inclination is to be going through kind of like the Garden Wise book, and talking about, stuff to be aware of that's common that gets planted in the garden, your butterfly bushes and your yellow flag iris, and then maybe going through some of the new ones that are out there that I want you guys to keep an eye out for. Shiny geranium out there, Terry.
It's back.
I bet it's super hard to kill. And there's a new one out there, Japanese coltsfoot or Fuki. I'm not sure if you guys know that one. It's got the really, really, really big leaves. I'm seeing it in some really strange places, and it's on our monitor list. Obviously Italianarium. So going through some of the ones that I want to bring attention to the master gardeners to be aware of and kind of keep an eye out for and stuff like that. But other than those subjects, does those subjects sound good? Or do you guys have anything that you think would be more appropriate for me to cover or go over at the Master Gardener or the Home and Garden Show?
Well, there's a lot of people who don't understand still. Can you hear me? I didn't know if I put speak on. There's still a lot of people who don't understand the weight of using the pesticides, and not doing it when they're flowering. Everybody says it, you read it everywhere, but I think there's still a lot of people, because I see people doing it all the time, like spraying something on something that's got a flower on it or something. And I don't think there's ever going to be, I don't know if we'll ever be able to stop every homeowner, every garden owner from spraying some kind of pesticide, but if they knew the safer ones and the safer way to do it, and just really, understand. I think there's a lot of people who just don't understand.
Maybe just covering the like integrative pest management, and
Yes.
if using chemicals is the last resort, then it does matter about your timing. It does matter about what you're using. It does matter about paying attention to that label. I can cover that. I can.
Because I appreciate that picture we were looking at when you were out there waving your wand in the air. Obviously there was no drift from from wind going on at that time, but you appreciate how widespread pesticide spray can drift.
Yeah, definitely. And it's tricky out there, but that day it was like a hot kind of, you also, you got to be careful about that heat. And if there is no wind, you want just a tiny little bit, and this product in particular doesn't have a high volatilization, but I've seen some issues with volatilization in the summertime. So not by me, other people. But I can cover that.
Other coaching for Kylie as we start thinking about the audiences. And Kylie, that goes back to the fact that so many of the people that we see down here, again, new to the area, right? So that they may not recognize what is invasive, right? And they'll be admiring the pretty knotweed flowers, right? And gee, isn't that Scotch broom so beautiful in the spring? Those little yellow flowers, right? And
that all the time.
Yeah. Love those conversations. Okay.
So I have a question, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but you're covering this, but what's being done for Scotch broom control right now?
Well, widespread. It's kind of so Scotch broom is a Class B weed statewide, but in order for a county to really put it as a high priority and have enforcement behind it, and it has to be designated for your county. And basically, every county on the west side of the state does not have Scotch broom designated because there's so much of it, and all hope is lost for eradication. But that doesn't mean that we don't do projects and that we don't work together. So oftentimes we're working with like the state parks and Department of Transportation, and then a lot of different like private landowners. So we ourselves do, my crews in the winter time, we do a lot of cut stump treatments out at the coastal beaches. Like we worked with the 10,000 Year Institute to get Griffiths Pride Day almost clear of it. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. If you guys haven't been out there, to go take a walk at Griffiths Pride Day and see the changes that have been made over the last 2 years and the control of it out there. We right now are working in the South Beaches at like Westport Light. And we cleared out Bottle Beach of Scotch broom. And so that's primarily our winter work. And then I work with landowners who want to get rid of it in just doing technical advice, offering up weed wrenches. So at this point, we have our little projects. We work with other agencies and encouraging them to take care of some stuff that we see. But there's no active like getting out there and banging down doors for people who have Scotch broom.
If you have it on your property, let's say just a little bit of it, what's the best way to get rid of it?
If you have just a couple plants, depending on how big they are, if they're pullable, just you want to get out there and just pull them. Make sure that you put them in a spot that they're not going to try to reroot, or if they have seeds on it, be careful. And if they're a few plants, but they're very big and you can't just pull them out by hand, we offer weed wrenches that we loan out here out of the office. There's one right here behind me. This thing. So you can come pick one of these up, and they're really invaluable for pulling out Scotch broom. And then if you have more than what you can do physically by pulling out, if you have a ton of it out there, I mean acres, then and your first option is to at least get it cut down and mowed. I always recommend to landowners to cut it when it's in bloom. So when it's yellow, that's when you actually want to get a mower out there, because there is a chance that you will kill some of it off. Now there's going to be a lot of regrowth, but if that's your only tactic, then mowing it when it's in bloom. And then the other option that we use cut stump treatment. And the reason why we do cut stump treatment is because every time you pull up Scotch from out of the ground, you're actually disturbing the soil and you're germinating more seeds. And so you're creating a seed flush. So to minimize, especially in the areas that we're working in amongst Salal and kind of native environments, we're trying to not disturb the soil as much. And some of them are pretty big Scotch broom. So we use loppers, and we also have like a little a little battery operated saw. So we cut the plants down, and then we just dab a little bit of herbicide onto the onto the cambium layer of the Scotch broom, and that's the way we do it. And then we either haul it off site, or we just clip it down and kind of let it decompose in the areas. But those are usual methods there, depending on your sizes.
You burn it? Can you burn it?
You can, yeah. Like when we have really large piles, like the city will go and haul it off and burn it. My colleague up in the peninsula with the 10,000 Year Institute, I was just at a conference with her, the Olympic working group meeting for all of us invasive people. And she did a really cool presentation, how she's really trying to take Scotch broom control that she's doing on the Hoh River and the Queets and the Clearwater. She is taking the Scotch broom that she's cut down and she's turning it into biochar. And then the biochar she's putting either back into the environment or putting it into other places where they're planting. So she's found a way to like bring these transportable biochar kilns. So there's some really cool stuff happening, I guess, in the world to be able to figure out how do we take care of that plant matter once we get it down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for having me. And if you have any questions, always shoot me an email, or if you have something that you want to get covered at the Home and Garden Show, please shoot me an email. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Kylie, for sure, thank you, and definitely bring your the weed wrench as a show and tell for that, because those are incredibly cool tools, right? You know, and it's just they are indeed phenomenal for picking up gorse or Scott's broom. So, Kylie, thanks so much. This is really important stuff. So this is incredibly important. We're looking forward to your presentation. Come next week, okay?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you all.
And with that, I wanted to make sure that I was indeed doing justice to the May birthdays for 2023 here. So Rick and Chris, you know, I realize Chris will actually be celebrating your birthday at the Home and Garden Show. So how exciting is that, right? You know, all the more reason, right, for everyone to be there and help Chris celebrate her birthday on Saturday, the 20th of May. So again,
I'll be on my way to Iceland.
You're on your way to Iceland. Well, we'll toast you. You know, we'll give you a toast or something in this regard. Hey, well, safe travels. And by the way, so happy birthday to everybody there. You know, for the month of May. Okay, so again, you know, super thanks for everybody today. You know, we'll see everyone tonight at 6 o'clock then for our board meeting, 6 p.m. tonight. You know, the URL for that is in the e-news. Thank you all. Stay safe. We'll take it from there.